Welcome to Sailing Avanti. We are Gerard and Jacqueline, sailing our 41-foot monohull Avanti around the world from Cape Town, South Africa.
On a beautiful morning, mid-September, in the middle of the hurricane season in the Caribbean, we are making ready to dash over to Curacao. Even though Hurricane Fiona is close to being named, she's far enough north for us to make a run to the close neighboring island. Ready for something new, but with the knowledge that this will probably be one of our favorite islands, with its insanely clear waters, extraordinary marine life, and some great memories. We have had no issues or breakages in our time here, and with happy hearts we left with no idea with how many tears laid ahead of us over the next 2 days.
We've just left Bonaire a few hours ago, so we were in the marina and we just cast our lines off just after sunrise, and we're on our way to Curacao. The weather is basically as predicted, so we've got relatively light wind, I would say about 12 knots. It was predicted to have about 15, so it is a little bit lighter. There's a little bit of swell from behind, but we're really comfortable. We're sailing at about 4.5–5 knots boat speed and about 6 knots of speed over ground, so we have a bit of a current with us, and we're sailing wing on wing. We started on a broad reach, but the wind shifted a little bit and we put up the pole for the Genoa. So we've got the main with one reef in and the Genoa just filled in with the pole. We're sailing with a friend of ours, an old American guy called Fred. He was in Cape Town for about a year when we prepared the boat, and we actually met up with him here. We haven't seen him in a few months. We saw him last in Curacao, and he's also on his way to Curacao. So he's in the background about 1 nautical mile behind us. We're sailing with the wing-on-wing configuration. The Genoa is on the port side and the main on the starboard side, and we just have one reef in the main. And yeah, it seems to be going well, quite well now. The wind is just on our port quarter, so almost going dead downwind. The sail from Bonaire to Curacao is about 30 nautical miles, so we normally work on about 5 knots of speed when the wind is light. So we're hoping to be there in about 6 hours. So we left early morning and we'll be there just after lunchtime, or maybe 2 o'clock at the worst. We also have 2 fishing lures out. So we've got our pink Rapala one out, the swimming lure, and then one big orange squid. So we hope to catch something between Bonaire and Curacao. We only have about half a day sailing, so hopefully we're lucky and we have dinner tonight. We are busy sailing into Curacao, and there is also a mountain, well, not really a mountain, a hill called Table Mountain. So either they copied Cape Town or Cape Town copied them. It is 2 Dutch names, so it's not a surprise. And there's also a Devil's Clip or a Devil's Peak, and there's also Devil's Peak in Cape Town on Table Mountain. The most popular anchorage in Curacao is called Spanish Waters. The anchorage is basically a lagoon with a very narrow passage to enter from the open ocean. It is very well protected from swell and has relatively good protection from wind, with a mud bottom in some areas for good holding. There is 3 main areas allocated for yachts to anchor, with passages left open for traffic to and from marinas and docks. It's important to know the area you're anchored in, as you need a permit for each anchor spot and the permit can only be obtained for specific dates. A permit for Spanish waters is only $25 for 3 months, and a permit for other smaller anchorages is $25 for 3 days. The fact that it's such a sheltered anchorage means that the water quality is not as good as we had in Bonaire. This is due to the fact that there is only a very narrow passage allowing water in and out of the lagoon.
Upon arrival, we immediately noticed the amount of traffic in the bay. There's everything from speedboats, jet skis, day tour boats playing loud music, and loads of windsurfers either learning or perfecting their skills. We are on Curacao, waiting at the bus stop to go to town. Clearing in Curacao is a bit more complicated than some of the other islands. We have to take, I think it's around a 30-minute bus to the main town, and then once we get there, it's first customs, then immigration, and then we have to go pay for the anchoring pass. Now the anchoring pass is also a bit tricky. You have to pay $25 per anchorage you go to. So it's a bit tricky, but we're gonna figure it out. Curacao is also the place where my parents are gonna come and visit. So we're very excited. They're flying in on Sunday. So it's about 2 days time. So we're very excited to have some family here. Once we arrive, we first go to the ATM to draw some local currency before we walk over to start the clearing process. On the way, we walk past the fresh produce market selling goods from Venezuela.
We've just visited customs and we've got our inbound clearance. So now it's just immigration and then the port captain for the anchor fee. So all set and all ready to go.
Punta is the historical center of Willemstad and was built in the 17th century. The Queen Emma Bridge is a pontoon bridge across the St. Anna Bay. The bridge is hinged and opens regularly for ocean-going vessels. It's 164 meters long and 10 meters wide. The first bridge was built in 1888 and has been restored twice, in 1939 and 2006. And now it closes again.
We've just come back from the immigration office and I'm afraid it's not good news for us. So we did worry a little bit about entering Curacao, and a few months ago we actually emailed the immigration because there's conflicting information on the website saying that South Africans need a visa that you can only apply from in South Africa, but other information said that if you have a valid US visa with a South African passport that you can enter, like we did in Bonaire. And we got this from the immigration people on email, so we thought it's all good, we can come in. But now the people at the immigration office is saying, or the port border control is saying we're not allowed in, and they don't want to accept the email that we got from the Department of Justice, which we thought was the official authority. So they sent us back to the Department of Justice after a lot of crying. Jackie became quite upset because our parents are visiting us here, and if we can't enter, it's quite a bit of an issue. So we went to the Department of Justice and they also confirmed that we can come in with US visas, but unfortunately their head or their manager was not there. So it seems like the people who we spoke to doesn't have authority to, give us an exception. They were out of the office on a meeting, and it was Friday afternoon. So we emailed them, and they said they'll look into it, and they'll get an email. They'll send an email to get back to us to say if we can come in. But also, the people at the port immigration office has given us 48 hours to basically leave, because they're not willing to clear us in.
So we're back on the boat after spending half the afternoon with the Justice Department, or the official immigration email address that spoke to us. They need until Monday to see if they can find a person to give us authorization, because according to them we are allowed to be here, but according to the port master that has to actually stamp you in, they're saying no. So we went back to them. We asked them if we went back to immigration at the port and asked them if they would extend our permission to stay just until Monday, till we can talk us through with everybody back in office, but they've said no, and changed our 48-hour notice period to 24 hours to leave. So we came back to the boat. We've had a think about it, and we phoned Bonaire. Bonaire said we can return. So although it's going east against the current, against the wind, we are gonna leave today and battle it out all the way back to Bonaire, and then my parents that arrive Sunday will have to catch a flight Monday evening from Curacao to Bonaire. But luckily they say we're allowed back, but I have to say I'm even more stressed sailing all the way back there, just with the thought of them saying now we can't get back in there either. So it's been a hell of a day, and we're quite exhausted, and I think a little traumatized that a written consent was not accepted, but nothing much we can do about it now. I think if we were in a different situation where my parents was not arriving and we weren't pressed for time with them, I think we might have stayed and just waited till everyone's back in office and spoken this through with everyone. But we don't want to spend their short holiday in offices fighting. So it's time to go back to Bonaire. Luckily Bonaire is a much nicer island. We can swim off the boat. There might not be public transport to the grocery store, but almost everything is walking distance. So I think all in all it'll be a better vacation for them, and I wouldn't mind being back in clean water. It was a bit of a shock when we got to Spanish water to see murky water again. I think we've been spoiled with the water quality in Los Roques and Bonaire, but in all honesty we're a bit exhausted. But it's time to head into the wind and waves and make our way back to Bonaire. What would have been our options if Bonaire had said no? Option number 1, sail to Aruba, where we know South Africans aren't allowed without a Dutch visa. Number 2, sail to Colombia. We're still in the visa application process, thus are not allowed to enter either. Number 3 would have been our only option, a 750 nautical mile, 5 to 6 day journey in the wrong time of year with Hurricane Fiona currently in the Northern Caribbean. This is the reason why we always plan ahead and get confirmations in writing well in advance before arriving, so that these situations don't happen, or so we thought.
We do count ourselves lucky in a weird sense. We only have a short distance to make back to Bonaire, and Fiona has sucked all the wind out of the south, leaving us with an unusually calm evening. With almost no wind and very little swell, we motor sailed the 35 nautical miles back to Bonaire in about 7 hours, arriving 1:30 in the morning. We tied up to the fuel dock in the marina to catch up on some sleep before grabbing a mooring ball the next morning. We are back in Bonaire. We took the last available mooring in the mooring ball fields, so that's a lucky one. And we're heading to customs and immigration now to see if they'll let us back in. So fingers crossed. We've just come back from immigration and customs, and without any issues they've let us back in. So we are extremely relieved and very happy. So we're probably gonna have a few beers or something and then go to sleep. We still need to catch up some sleeping hours, and yeah, our family is basically on their way as well. They are arriving tomorrow with a short flight from Curacao to Bonaire. So We are extremely relieved and thankful for the Bonairean authorities for being consistent and letting us in.
Thank you for watching this episode. Next week, my parents arrive and they weather a storm within the first few days of arrival. This storm would later be named Hurricane Ian. If you liked this week's episode, please give it a big thumbs up and leave us a comment of what you'd like to see more of in Bonaire. Subscribing to our channel helps us a lot. A big thank you as always to our Patreons. You can join them by clicking on the link below.